Hello, my name's Matt Cornock, and in this tutorial I'll be showing you how you can resize photos for use on the web. This tutorial is designed for people at the University of York who wish to resize photos for the website or the institutional VLE, but it is equally applicable to other people just looking for tips on how you can resize photos. The first stage is to obtain your photos. Now, if you don't have your own, you'll need to find some freely available photos that you can use under license. Creative Commons is one licensing scheme that allows you to do this, and flickr.com/Creative Commons has a whole host of freely available photos that you can use. You go to the See More link, and this will present a selection of photos, but you can also search within that particular license group. I've already got some photos that I want to use, they're my own photos, and I've got this photo here of the York Law School and the York Management School, which took on Heslington East, and this photo I've got on Flickr and I've made it available under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial License. If there's a copyright symbol here, you can't use the image. You can only use those that have got Creative Commons licensing. I'd also recommend that you record when you download the image, the original image URL, which is available at the top, and the license that it was released under. Should the license change later on, you will then have proof that you've got a record of exactly when you obtained the image and when you used it. I will need to download the high quality version of this image. You'll then see an option there for download, and we want to download the original image. Download the original, and whilst that's downloading to my computer, I will show you the software we're going to use to edit it. Available on all campus computers is Corel PaintShop Pro X4 or PaintShop Pro 14, and this particular piece of software is available on all campus computers. If you don't have it on yours, you can obtain it through the Get Programs option within the control panel. The techniques that we're showing you here will be just as applicable whether using Photoshop or another photo editing package. The program will load first of all in this particular view, but you'll need to switch to edit view. So if you go to the very top of PaintShop Pro and click on the edit tab, you'll then be brought up to this particular viewpoint, and whatever image you were looking at before will open up. Now I've got my images here in window view. If you go to the window menu, you can also have it in tabbed documents view as well, but I prefer having everything in a separate window. So just closing that original image, I'm going to find and open my download. And we can see here that this is the file I've downloaded from Flickr, and we're currently viewing it at 20%. Now this means that this image is pretty big actually. It could, if we zoom into 100%, we can see here all the detail that's available. And that's one of the advantages of downloading a high quality photo, in that we can actually just zoom in without loss of quality to any particular area of the image, and we'll be doing that later on. We can also take a look at the dimensions of the image. If we move down to see the bottom right hand corner of PaintShop Pro, the dimensions are shown there as 3340 by 1908 pixels. For the first exercise then, I'm going to create an image that can be used on the web CMS, and a banner on the web CMS will be normally 200 pixels high, and it will either be 720 pixels wide or 505 pixels wide if you've got a right hand column. So for the 720 pixels wide one is what we're going to do here, and I'm going to show you the first easy way of resizing an image. Go to Image, Resize from the menu bar, and you'll be presented with this pop-up box. You can change the pixel dimensions, set that drop down on the right there to be pixels, because it might be set to percent if you're not careful, and then we're going to put in our dimensions of 720 pixels wide. Now at the moment we're just looking at the longest dimension, we're just resizing by the longest dimension. If we were trying to change that to 200, then we'll end up with a very squashed image, which we don't want. So we want to keep this aspect ratio, the relationship between width and height, the same at this point in time. So I've changed my width there to be 720 pixels wide, and I'm going to click OK. Now let's say that I do want it to be 200 pixels high. So I need to go to Image and Canvas Size. Canvas size is different from resize in that it's a cropping mechanism. So if I set my width to be 720 pixels wide again, and the height here to be 200 pixels high, we can then check in the boxes below which parts of the image are going to be cropped. We need to set the placement to be in the middle to begin with, and this will mean that the cropping will be the same top and bottom. We can adjust this so I can increase the amount that the image is going to be cropped from the top, and that will automatically reduce how much is going to be cropped from the bottom, and then click OK. And you can see here that's cropped the image down, and if we look at the dimensions at the bottom right, we can see that it's now 720 pixels wide by 200 pixels high. So we've got our image the right size. The final step is to save it in an appropriate format for uploading onto the web. Go to the File menu, Save As, and then make sure that Save As Type is set to JPEG. Before you save though, click on the Options link, and this will give you the options to compress the image. Set the compression factor to be 15. That's a good balance between quality that's suitable for the web and file size. If your image has text elements, you will need to decrease this compression factor if you're using JPEG, because text doesn't compress very well in JPEG. So you might need to use something like probably 7 or 8 in terms of compression factor if you're using text to get a really good quality image. This case though, it's just a photo, so I can set the compression factor to be 15. Click OK, and that will close the box, and then you can then save your file. I like to include the dimensions as part of the file, just makes it easier when you're uploading things onto the web CMS. One thing to note though is that once you've saved this file, that is now a compressed file. You should not edit that file again. If you edit the file and then resave it, you're likely to increase extra compression on top of it. So for example, if I edited this file and cropped it down again and then saved it again at compression 15, that compression factor is going to start to compound over time. Therefore, always keep the original and work from the original if you need to resize the image. So this file here, I'm going to save it. That's all I'm going to do with that file now. That can only ever be used on the web, and I shouldn't be doing anything more with it. So for my next exercise, I'm going to resize an image using a different technique, and I'm going to resize it for use on the VLE. I have to go back to my original file, and for this particular exercise I'm going to use this selection tool. Once you've chosen the selection tool, you will need to make sure that the selection type is set to rectangle, the feather to 0, and the anti-alias box is unchecked. Now the image I want to create for the VLE is a banner at the top of the page, and I've decided that the best dimensions for the banner will be 600 pixels wide by 75 pixels high. Before I go any further, I need to calculate the ratio of the height and the width. So I'm going to use my calculator here that's available on my computer, and I'm just going to put the width in first and then divide it by the height, so that's 600 by 75 pixels, and that gives me a ratio of 8, 1 to 8. For my banner, I want to create a banner for the management school, and I'm going to create that using the selection box, and as I create the selection, at the very bottom right you'll see that the numbers are changing. It shows you the dimensions of the selection, and it also shows you in the square brackets the ratio of the width and the height of my selection. So that allows me to try and make a selection around about 8, which will mean that it'd be a right sort of dimensions for the banner image. So there's my selection. I've got a ratio of 8, and I'm now going to crop that down. So if I go to Image and Crop to Selection, we can see there we've got our image, and it's cropped down to the ratio I was looking at before. However, the image size is still the wrong size. It's still bigger than what we want it to be, which is good. If you end up cropping a selection down that's too small, you're going to lose quality. So always crop a selection so that the image size, after you've cropped it, is too big, because then you can go back to Image and Resize. We're going to set the width to 600 because that's what I want it to be, and you can see here, because we've got the ratio already, the height is already 75 pixels, which is what we were looking for. So I'm going to click OK, and now looking at the bottom right, we can see that the image is 600 pixels wide by 75 pixels high. That's my image I'm going to use on the VLE, and I can go and save that as a JPEG with a compression factor 15. So I've shown you two methods for resizing images. The first one is to go to the image menu, resize using the longest dimension, and then use canvas size to crop the shorter dimensions off. The second method used the selection tool to create a selection of the right aspect ratio using the numbers at the bottom right of the screen, then image, crop to selection, and then resize. We then saved the file as a JPEG with a compression ratio that was a compromise between quality and file size.